Welcome back to Warriors Weekly. Now Basketball 101 with Jim Barnett.
We're having a lot of fun with these Basketball 101 segments. We hope you are too. We hope you're learning a lot. It's fun to share the knowledge with you, particularly when we have an assistant coach like Russ Turner here. And Russ, today I'd like to talk specifically about low post scoring. You have a big man, and how do you get him to perfect his moves on the low post? How does he read different situations? And why don't you just take it from here? What do you try to do when you're talking about strictly low post scoring?
Okay, well the first thing is we emphasize making a catch as deep as possible. So if you'll take the ball over there,
okay,
I'll tell you what our big guys are first trying to do. They're gonna come down the floor looking for an easy catch in this painted area, the yellow here. If that's not available, we ask our guys to post up on the line of the ball to the basket. So right about here. If I can get a catch in this paint, Jim's job is to give me the ball right away. And when I catch this ball, I'm looking to score as quickly as possible because I'm deep and close to the basket.
Yeah, you certainly don't want a 3-second violation, so the offensive player out here has to recognize that.
Right, and most defenders are not going to allow you to have this spot for very long, if at all. If you get pushed off of the paint, which is what happens a lot in physical play in the NBA, you look to establish again, not too low where you're close to the backboard, and then in many cases not too high where you're on the elbow, but where we have this two-man game. So,
do you like a pass in the air, or do you sometimes prefer a bounce pass?
Well, it depends on who's guarding our offensive player. If there's a smaller man on me, you put it up high. All right. If I'm guarded by a bigger guy, you might want to put it down low. So he's got to make that read as a passer, and I got to make that read as a post player. But when I establish this position right here, and I earn this catch, my first option on this catch is to look at this cutter. Because if we can hand this ball off for an easy 2-on-1 right here, we're going to take that. We've got some guys who are really effective at that cut. But if I don't have the cut, so if Jim passes, I make the catch, I look at this cut and don't have it. Now my job as a post player is to read the floor and look to make a play. And I'm reading for defenders coming at me for a double team. I'm reading for offensive players cutting to the basket who might be available for a quick pass. But we don't have a lot of post players that naturally draw double teams. So once they have this catch, they've read the cutter, they've read the defense, now they're looking to score. What we want our guys to do if they can is attack middle, because that's where the most passes are available to them. And we like our post players to use only one dribble if they're in this place. So what you want to do is you want to take a hard dribble to attack. Now if you notice, my feet are square to the basket. And what this means for a post player is that I can pivot either direction. I can turn here and score, or I can turn back here and space away from my defender and score. And that's really important because it forces your defender to play right behind you. If you get a shot in this area in the NBA, you should be able to convert at a high percentage.
Russ, always a pleasure having you on the show, and we always learn a lot. And we'll see you another time on Basketball 101. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Corey Maggette, and you're watching Warriors Weekly.
In this week's profile, we got the chance to sit down with Warriors legend Al Attles before a recent game at Oracle Arena. Well, I'm sitting here with one of my favorite guys in all the NBA, and that's Mr. Warrior Al Attles. You've been with this franchise now 50 years with the Warriors franchise. Back when it was in Philadelphia, you moved out west, and I guess time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. The most important thing about it, and the funniest thing about it, I think, is I only expected to be there 1 week. You know, I believe, you know, just being in the right place at the right time is more important than anything in life, and I just happen to be in the right place.
So you come into the Warriors, and there's some established stars there and some young stars there. Talk a little bit about the roster when you arrived.
Well, obviously, you have to start with Wilt.
Yeah.
And, you know, Wilt and I were very, very close. And then my roommate was Guy Rogers, but a guy who I was very, very fond of was Paul Arizin. Paul was a perennial all-star. He won the top 50, obviously, just like Wilt. But Paul was a player who was older than we were. So he came to work, gave his 100% of what he had to the effort, and then he went home every night.
Now you were involved in one of the great games in sports history as far as records go. Wilt Chamberlain with 100 points in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia Warriors against the New York Knicks. Other than Wilton, the dominance and what we know about that night, is there any background story or any side story that you know?
You'd be surprised the number of people that I've talked to over the years who said, yeah, you played in the game where the guy got 100 points and you lost the game. A lot of people think we lost the game because of how they felt about Wilt. We actually won the game, and that was paramount. Number two, Wilt tried to come out of the game before he got to 100. And we all wanted to do what was necessary to win. And if he could have scored 200 points, we would have, and we won, that's all we wanted. So, and I remember we were sitting in the locker room, one of those old time locker rooms, and I was sitting next to him. And water was coming down, he had a stat sheet. And he just kept shaking his head like this. And I'm going, big fella, what's the matter? He said, I never thought I would take 60 shots in a ball game. And I, being a math major myself, I said, yeah, but you made 36 of them, which is better than 50%. But he was really, really, upset that he had taken that many shots. And Wilt was our star, and nobody complained about it. We were all happy because the more he shined, the better chance we had to win, and that's all we were there for.
The team comes over, after a couple of years, Wilt Chamberlain gets traded. How hard was that for you because of how close you and Wilt were?
Well, it really hurt because Wilt and I and Guy, the three of us, the three amigos, so to speak. And the one thing that was very interesting about that trade, Wilt had this Rolls Royce, and he tells me, I'm going to let you keep this car for the year. And I'm going, no, big fella, I'm not going to drive that car. And I told him, I said, here's what I'm going to do. I said, we're going to park this car somewhere because. And he said, why? He said, you can use it. And I said, well, think about this. Suppose I get a scratch on it. It's going to cost more than I made to get it fixed. And so we didn't do it. But he was. I could tell stories about him. Things that he did that people would just not believe. But as they say, he's bigger than life.
Let's now go to the next step, because that trade actually opened the door for Nate Thurmond to play.
Right.
And one of the greats of all time. In fact, we were just in Cleveland. His numbers retired there.
Oh, everywhere.
Even though he only played a couple of years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what kind of a player, what kind of a guy was Nate like during his career?
Nate was an interesting guy in that Nate would cover up for everybody. I don't care what happened. And he would, if he got fouls on him or whatever, but he really believed in that theory of the center being your last line of defense. And, he just was a great teammate. My biggest complaint, was the fact that when we did finally win a championship, Nate was not here. But I really feel badly about that.
I've known you for over 15 years, so I'm going to ask you something you don't want to talk about. How did you get that nickname, the Destroyer?
Very simple. Back then guys used to make up stuff, and seriously, and I'll tell you how it happened. We were playing in Boston. There was a loose ball. It came off, and the loose ball was loose. And there's three of us going for the loose ball: Dolph Shays, Tom Gola, and Al Adams. We all were trying to get the ball, and there was a pile-up, bang. Then we all hit. Gola gets knocked down, and Dolph Shays gets knocked down, and his jaw gets broken. They were in the locker room afterwards, and Larry Costello says to Dolph, he said, boy, you got hit by the Destroyer. Now all of a sudden, I'm the Destroyer, and I'm going, where'd this come from? I know where it came from. They figured, okay, who are we going to give it to? The little guy from Newark who's not going to be in the league long, we'll give it to that guy, so that's the way it happened.
Don't forget, Hardwood Classic games coming up in December. Log on to Warriors.com for more information.
Warriors Weekly is presented to you by Esurance. Warriors fans, save big on your auto insurance with great California discounts at esurance.com.